Well, hello and welcome to National Invasive Species Awareness Week 2026. I am Rick O'Connor. I'm with the Florida Sea Grant Program based out of the University of Florida Extension Office in Escambia County. And this week we're going to show you a series of videos about coastal invasive species, how to identify them, and particularly focus on how to manage them, because we've talked about some of these before in past programs. Today, for episode 2, we're looking at this plant. This plant is known as beach Vitex. It is now listed as an invasive species in the state of Florida. It is what we call an EDRR species. EDRR is Early Detection Rapid Response. You might recall that in episode number 1, we were talking about the Cuban tree frog, which is pretty well established through most of Florida. It just recently reached the Florida Panhandle. But this plant is not that common in Florida anywhere, really. The places I am aware of that it exists is here in the Florida Panhandle, primarily in the Western Panhandle, but it has been seen in Apalachicola, and then over near St. Augustine, between there and Jacksonville. So other than that, we're not aware of the plant being anywhere else. So it's a good candidate for potentially controlling and possibly eradicating from the state of Florida. So this is the plant. How will I know if I've got it? You can see the leaves. I will tell you what I look for. Every year during the spring and summer, I'll do what I call a summer survey out here on the island to see where the plant exists, and also plants that we have treated in the past. How are they doing? Are they returning? So when you see the plant, one of the things you'll notice with these leaves, one is they're kind of ovate in shape. They're almost circular, almost round. They're not long and skinny like an oak leaf. The second thing, which is more outstanding for me when I'm looking for it, is it's got a bluish hue to it. Most of the plants that are growing out here, again, we're in January, most things are brown right now, but in the spring and the summer, this area is full of very brilliant green or deep green plants, but this thing again has a blue hue to it. And so as I'm riding up and down on my bike, you can spot that. You can see it from a distance. So that's one characteristic. If I see a blue hued plant, I'll stop, get off my bike, and check it out. The second thing I think helps identify it is these vines. You can see there's a central taproot right there, and the vines are running out spider web. You can see it running off in that direction. And so it'll go almost 360 degrees and run across the surface of the sand. So when you see the vines, there are native vines out here, but that blue hue and the vine is like two characteristics. The third one is the flower itself. We see that in late spring, early summer. They'll come off. It's a cluster of little small blossoms, and they're lavender in color. There are very few plants out here that produce lavender flowers, but this is one of them. And it makes it very, very easy to identify the plant. So if you think you've got it on your property or somewhere else in the public area in your county, you can take a few pictures, run that by your extension office, and they can confirm or verify that, yes, that is the plant. That is beach Vitex. So if you've got this plant on your property, what do? How do you manage this thing? Well, again, with smaller plants, it does, as I said, have these vines that run, and they go back here to a main taproot. On a smaller plant or an early germinative system, you can get in there with a shovel or a tool. They make special tools to remove weeds with by the root. But you can do that and actually pull it out, and we've had a lot of success with that on Pensacola Beach, removing some of these plants. When they get a little bit bigger like this, it becomes a little more problematic. So one of the things we will do is that we will cut the vine into 2-foot sections, and you'll have these pieces like this. Now, this being a state noxious weed, it is now listed as a state noxious weed. You're not allowed to remove live plant from the site. So what we tell you to do is kind of pile it up, cut it, pile it up, let it die. And once it's dead, then you can move it where you would like to take it, dumpster, wherever you might want to go. So that's one thing. And now if you keep cutting, you'll go all the way back. Eventually you'll get to the taproot. If you get to the taproot and you can't get it out of the ground, what you can do is take a shovel or a small hatchet or a machete and cut a notch into that taproot, or even cut it and then spray it with a herbicide. Not everyone is in favor of using chemicals to try to treat plants and weeds, but in some cases you may have to go to that level to get rid of the plant. So you would have to cut that thing and spray it. Keep this in mind too. Plants are very similar to people. When you cut yourself, the blood is going to clot and form a scab. If you cut that root, it's going to eventually clot over, if you will, and form a protective layer. So you need to get that herbicide in there as quickly as possible. We recommend cutting and spraying, going right on top of it. The other option with the chemical is to spray the leaves directly, as you would a weed in your driveway or something. Just come along and spray right on top. The thing you got to be aware of when you're spraying this way is what we call overspray. Most of these herbicides are what we call non-selective, meaning they're designed to kill plants. So if you get it overspray, obviously you wouldn't want to do this on a windy day. It would blow it over here and kill sea oats or something else that you don't want to kill, or it may be illegal to kill them in your county. So yeah, you got to be careful of that. You want to pick a day where it's not windy, and you want to use, I prefer using smaller bottles where you can get right directly on top of it and spray that directly. But that's a foliar spray. Now in both cases, whether you're doing what we call cut stump and you're cutting the taproot or spraying the leaf directly, the question is, did you get enough herbicide in the plant to get down into the root system and kill it all completely? The answer is probably not. So you got to be prepared that next year you may see the plant return. You got to treat it again, retreat it again. Studies out of Clemson University have found it may take 3 to 5 years to completely get rid of this plant from your yard. So those are the management ideas. Keep this in mind too. We are now in winter time. You can see right here these little seeds. There's actually just hundreds of them everywhere. They're piled up all here. These little seeds are called drupes. And inside each drupe is 4 seeds. So every one of these pods has 4 seeds in it. And if you're moving this stuff in seed and taking it over there, you may be spreading the problem. We recommend not moving or touching this plant during the time it's in seed. But keep that in mind. Even if you did all the cutting right, the spraying right, everything you wanted to do, these seeds may germinate and the plant may return anyway. So you're still going to have to work on top of that. So the next question was, what herbicide should I use? Is there a better one than another? On the front of the label, you will see the active ingredient. It will list it right there. In this case, it's triclopyr. The University of Clemson has done studies on which of the herbicides are most effective against beech vitex. In an order of effectiveness, you have imazapyr, then triclopyr, and then glyphosate. There's not a big significant difference between the three. That's just how they laid out. So they're all pretty good. Imazapyr is the most effective, but the issue with imazapyr is that once you spray it on the leaf or cut it into the stump, it has a very, very long soil activity life, meaning that it's going to be in the sand, in the soil for several months. It will actually move through the soil and kill plants nearby. For that reason, some folks, even though it's the most effective, will choose not to use that. They're just nervous about doing that. The second one on the list would be the triclopyr, which this particular product, that's the active ingredient in it. It does best against woody plants versus, say, a herbaceous weed or a grass like Kogan grass. So it's going to do best against a woody tree. So if you're doing a cut stump, that would obviously be the one you would want to use, is the triclopyr. And we use that quite a bit. The next one is glyphosate, which is more designed for grassy plants or herbaceous plants. It would be a good selection if you're going to do the foliar spray. But again, remember, all 3 of them are non-selective, so you want to avoid overspraying. You want to avoid windy days. I will also add, especially with the direct foliar spray, you want to do this when it's been raining previously. You don't want to do it obviously during a rain event. This is going to wash the herbicide off. But we have found, or the studies have shown, that in drought conditions, the plant does not take up the herbicide very well. So even though you did everything right, you may still have a problem because the plant did not absorb as much herbicide as you thought it did, and the problem hasn't disappeared. So there are mechanical ways of getting rid of it, which is literally pulling it and digging it out. There are chemical ways, which you could use foliar spray, or as we call it, cut stump. And then again, remember, with the live plant material in Florida, you cannot move this until it is dead. So allow it to die, and then you can dispose of it. So if you have questions about identification or management, you can always contact your county extension office, and an agent there should be able to help you. If you got any questions, you can always contact us. And in our next episode, we'll take a look at another invasive plant.